Okay, number 1, which of the following examples is an algebraic expression? Okay, A, is that an expression? Oops. No, why not? It has an equal sign, which makes it an equation. And for that same reason, what else is not an expression? C. B and D do not have an equal sign, but why is B not an algebraic expression? There's no variables, so it's got to be D. All right, number 2. The expression 42x plus 30y represents the amount of money The expression 42x plus 30y represents the amount you spend on clothes at a recent visit to the mall, where x represents pants and y represents shirts. Which statement, focus, is true about how much you spent? Okay, well then I started reading through the answer choices, and I said, okay, you spent $42 on shirts. And I thought, well, wait a minute, which one of these is even shirts? So I had to go back, and I saw, okay, X represents pants, so above the X, I just wrote a small p, so I'll know that's $42 per pant. Y represents shirts, so I put an S right there, $30 per shirt. If you label them like that, when you're reading through the choices, it'll be a lot easier. You spent $42 on shirts? No. You spent $42 on pants? Yes, $42 per pair of pants, so B is correct. All right, number 3. You and your friends are going on a trip. Each plane ticket costs $250. The cost of all of your luggage is $125. Write an expression that represents your total for flying. Anybody think they know the answer? Right, 250x plus 125. Now let's talk about how they got that. What does the X represent? Plane tickets. But why is the number of plane tickets unknown? Right, it just says you and your friends. We have no idea how many friends we're talking about. Shh, I'm waiting on people to be quiet. So therefore, we have no idea how many plane tickets we're buying, so we put an X. It's unknown. What we do know about each plane ticket, though, is it's $250. So once you find out how many people are going, you would just do 250 times that many people. And it says the cost of all luggage is $125, so that's a one-time fee. Number 4, there is a new pair of shoes that you would like to buy. You see an ad that they are going to be 20% off this weekend. Write an expression to represent this situation. Okay, any ideas? Yes? I mean, yeah, that would work, but that's not how you're going to see it on the test choices. Okay, so you said 20 divided by X. So let's say that the shoes cost $100. What's 20 divided by 100? Type it in, 20 divided by 100. 0.2, does that make sense? Do you think you're going to be pay 0.2 for the shoes? Okay, well, let's look at that. If we do X over 20 and say the shoes are $100, what's 100 over 20? 5. Does that make sense? But is it 20% off? Right. Okay, let's talk about, so let's say these shoes are $100, okay? You walk in the store. What would you do on your phone calculator to figure out what 20% of 100 is? 0.2, not divided by 100, multiplied by the 100. Because what's 0.2 times 100? 20. And aren't you going to take that $20 off of the original price? Okay, but look, right, we don't know these shoes are $100, right? I just made that up. So all we know about the shoes is they're unknown. So there's your expression, the cost of the shoes minus 20% of whatever the cost is. Now, Okay, number 5. 4 friends went bowling, and each of them owed a total of $D, and that amount included the cost to bowl and their shoes. One of your friends had a coupon that saved $10. Write an expression to represent this situation. Right, 4D, because that's 4 friends paying $D each. We don't know, but subtract off 10 off the total because of the coupon. All right, number 6. A cell phone company charges $50 per month for unlimited calling and 10 cents per text message sent. If T represents the number of text messages Roxy sent last month, which expression represents the cost of her bill last month before taxes or additional fees? Right, $50, because that's a one-time charge and that will get you unlimited calling. But on top of that, your bill will also have 10 cents per text. Yes, you could also write it as 0.10T plus 50, or you could even write it as just 0.1T, because that's still 0.10. You don't have to have the 0 plus 50. Keep that in mind for the test tomorrow, that you don't have to have the 0. It could, for 20 cents, you could just have 0.2. Or for 30 cents, you could just have 0.3. Okay? Number 7, the total daily expenses to operate Sheila's Pie Bakery are the cost of salaries, like to pay her employees, and the ingredients that she has to buy to make the pies. Sheila has, this should say, 3 employees, and she pays each worker a daily rate. On average, it costs the same amount of money to make each pie. This expression shows the total daily expenses for Sheila's Bakery to make X pies. Okay, so this is the expression. And what does that X represent? Well, the X's represent pies, right? So the number beside it is the cost to make a pie. 60 cents for ingredients. So what does the 3 times 50 represent? Right, because if she has 3 employees and then right after that is a 50, she must be paying each of them $50 a day. I know, I corrected that when I was reading it. I said this should say 3. All right, next page. Yeah, $50 a day. Javier was given the following expression in his algebra class. 7x squared plus x minus 8 plus 2x squared minus 5x plus 2. If he simplifies this expression, which statements are true about the parts of the simplified expression? Circle all that apply. That means there's more than one right answer. So what's the first thing I should do? Okay, which is simplifying it. 7x squared can combine with 2x squared, and yes, that makes 9x squared. Then after that, we have a positive 1x, and it can combine with, and when you combine those, you have how many x's? Right? And then we have a negative 8, and it can combine with 2, and when you combine those, you have a negative 6. Is this polynomial in standard form? Yes. What does that mean? Right, the exponents are greatest to least. This is the largest exponent, this is the next largest, this has no exponent at all. That's what it means to be in standard form. What do we name this polynomial? No. Quadratic trinomial. Quadratic because it's degree 2, that's the highest exponent. Trinomial because it has 3 terms. Now, is the constant negative 6? Yes, so we circle that one. Is the coefficient 4? No. The coefficient, one of them is negative 4, not a positive 4. The constant is 6. No, we already said it's negative 6. The leading coefficient is 9. Yes, do y'all know what a leading coefficient is? It's the very first one as long as it's in standard form. So if it's not in standard form and you're just choosing not to rewrite it in standard form, what would you have to look for to find the leading coefficient? The largest exponent, and whatever coefficient's on that term is the leading coefficient. Okay? If you write it in standard form, it'll just be the very first coefficient. Okay? There are 3 variables. No, you only have an x squared and an x to the first. There are 3 terms. Yes. Okay, number 9. Which quadratic function has a leading coefficient of 5 and a constant term of -7? Okay, well, let's talk about it. A and D have a constant of -7. Okay, so that rules out C and B because they have a constant of 5. And their leading coefficients are both 5. So what makes D the right one? Quadratic means you're looking for a degree 2. This would be what type of polynomial? Cubic binomial. So it's D. All right. Use the expression 8x cubed plus 4x squared minus 2x plus 1 to answer the following questions. Is that one simplified? It already is. Is it in standard form? Yes. See, your exponents go from 3 to 1 and then no exponent at all. So they go from greatest to least. So now we're ready to identify the terms. What are the terms? Right. When they ask for the term, they want the entire thing. The coefficient, the variable, and the exponent. Or in this case, it would just be a 1. But they want the entire term. What about the constants? What's the constant in this expression? A positive 1. What are the coefficients? Right. Don't forget the negative on the 2. What is the leading coefficient? 8, because it's the first one. But remember, it has to be in standard form. Otherwise, you have to look for the highest exponent and whatever coefficient's on it. Okay. Simplify 4x squared plus 8 plus 2x to the 4th minus 3x squared plus 4x to the 4th minus 2. And then use that simplified expression to answer the following questions. What do I do first when simplifying it? Okay, so 4x squared can combine with, and that makes x squared. You can write the 1 if you'd like. Then the next term I get to is this positive 8, and it can be combined with, and what does that make? A positive 6. And then the next term I get to is in 2x to the 4th, and it can be combined with, and that is 6x to the 4th. Is that in standard form? What will it look like when we rewrite it in standard form? Right. What do we name this polynomial? Quartic trinomial. Quartic because it's degree 4, trinomial because it has 3 terms. What are those terms? Right. What are the constants? What are the coefficients? What's the leading coefficient? Right. Okay, now I want you to get out a sheet of notebook paper. 1. What does a correlation coefficient of 0 mean? No correlation. What would that look like on a scatter plot? Right, just scattered everywhere. It wouldn't make any kind of line. It would just be random. Okay, number 2, you're supposed to simplify it. So you would first factor tree, and most of you discovered that the number is 5 times 41 multiplied to 205. 5's prime, and so is 41. So this one is the final answer. You can't simplify it. Right, it'll become a decimal, but it still can't be simplified any further. Kind of like, if your teacher gives you 1/2 and tells you to reduce it, you can't reduce that anymore. That would be the final answer. You can't do anything to it. All right. You'll be fine. You'll be better tomorrow. 2 square root of 3 plus the square root of 75. They want us to add these, but to be able to add radicals, what has to happen? Right, they have to match. This one's got a 3 and this one's got a 75. So what do I do? Okay, what are factors of it? And then that would become a 5, and a 3. So we circle the pair of 5s, right, and kick that one out. And then the 3 goes back in the house. So now the square root of 75 became 5 square roots of 3. Now can we add it together? And you get what? Right. 7 square roots of 3. All right, number 4. Remember, you can also use the calculator to check those by matching the decimals up. Number 4, 50 feet is how many inches? Right, you would start your conversion chain with 50 feet. Then feet has to go on the bottom because it was on the top before. We know that 1 foot is 12 inches. Those cancel each other out. We're finished with the chain because we've made it to inches, and now you just multiply those. You get 600 over 1, which is just 600. And that is in inches. All right, last one. Focus, this is the last one. Number 5, what is the mean absolute deviation of the set of numbers? What do we do first? Find the mean, because that's the first letter. M for mean. What do they add up to? Those numbers add up to 11.2? 56, and then how many of them are there? 5, and then that becomes 11.2. Now what do you do? Right, because that's what deviation is. You're finding how far each number deviated from the mean. So what's 11.2 minus 5? What about 11.2 minus 8? 11.2 minus 15. And it would be negative, right? But because it's absolute, we make it positive 3.8. What about 11.2 minus 7? 4.2. And then what about 11.2 minus 21? Right. Even if you ended up with a negative for one of these when you subtracted each one from the mean, absolute means make them all positive. Now what do we do to those numbers? Add them all up and divide by 5. What do they become when you add them all up? 27.2. And when you divide that by 5, you get what? So that is the mean absolute deviation.